So if you saw our announcement, we tried to record this last week while I was in Florida. Akshay was at his place. Maggie was at her place. Jake was also with poor internet problems like I had. So this episode just didn't happen last week like it should. So we're at episode 163, The Redux, Part 2, Volume 2, Version 2.
It's really a shame because they clearly missed the best episode ever. Of course, that is definitely why we felt okay scrapping it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was I'd say pretty busy week last week just because that's the nature of the spring. That being said, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's been too much earth-shaking Georgia Tech news the past month. We've just been in the steady grind of softball, baseball, especially now that men's and women's basketball is over and swimming is wrapped up. It's the tennises, it's the stickball sports. We've got some spring off season action, if you will, in track. So kind of just plodding away at that.
Pretty much, yeah. I'll mention we did have a segment about the women's national championship and had Maggie on to talk about that, but that didn't go so far. So because that recording didn't happen, do read Maggie Doster's piece about how Tech can maybe capitalize on the but evolving popularity of women's basketball and how incredible of a title game that was, and just Final Four as a whole. So outside of that, let's move on to now. You'll notice Jack here, me, is hosting and not Akshay, and that is because our dear co-host, stats guru Akshay, has a new job. He is now the data engineer at Atlanta United in their scouting department, so he's been taking the week to figure out find his bearings. He was working from home, I believe, in his old job, and so now he's got to go to an office. Oh my God, what is this post-COVID world like? Oh no,
what a shame. Commuting, I say, as I may be moving very close to my office.
But no, we're really proud of him, and we're thrilled that he's going to get a chance to work in his what I believe is. I mean, you can correct me. I mean, soccer's, we both know soccer's his main sport, and combine his absolute nerdery of analytics and the best sport for him, and voila. So he'll be back. We're just doing this week without him as of now. So super proud for him. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever told this on the podcast. If I had, it's been at least a while. But the first time I met Akshay, it was at a women's basketball game, which feels very fitting for this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in an Atlanta United quarter zip. And I don't know very much soccer. Like, I just watch it because it's a sport kind of thing, and because all of y'all talk about it and sometimes have me go with. But anywho, he's in this Atlanta United quarter zip, and I've never met this guy before. I'm like, are you wearing merch for the team that doesn't exist yet? So we got off to a great start, but it's full circle for him. So super, super proud for him to join the team of which he's, I guess, a founder. I don't know how that club stuff works.
Founding member. If you had season tickets from year one, you are called a founding member.
Jack, are you a founding member?
No, I am not. I am not. Sadly.
Dang. Sad.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but been going to games since game one though.
I was gonna say you can. Oh, me too. I was in Upper North for that at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Okay. But I was gonna say we can all be founding members for when Georgia Tech inevitably, hopefully, starts a women's soccer program. So
please God, I hope that happens. So that'd be the best. Listen to our summer episode about where to put the stadium if you want to hear more about our thoughts there.
Submit recommendations for other random things for us to talk about for the summer. If you have thoughts, email us from therumbleseat@gmail.com. I've been told I need to plug this earlier in the episode. You can also reach out to us on Twitter or leave a comment on the site. The summer is coming up sooner than you might expect.
It really is.
We're going to go wide.
We're in a postmasters world now, so it's really getting close to summer. We have some plans for the summer, but we definitely will need more content. So tell us what you want to hear. On to some more pressing news. Today is Tuesday, the 11th of April, and this morning, the associate head coach and defensive coordinator of the Tech women's basketball team, Tasha Butts, was announced as the new head coach at Georgetown. So Nell Fortner loses one of her stalwarts on the bench, arguably her most important coaching bench piece. She spent 4 years at Tech with Nell the whole way. She was promoted to associate head coach in 19, I want to say. And then she got the defensive coordinator title this past season. This is going to be her first head coaching gig. Georgetown has been on the steady climb. They made their last time they were over 500 was a few years ago, and then they had like a 5 win season and then a 9 win season. They finally got over the 10 win hump this year, but so they're on the up and up, and I am sure they will be positively changed by Coach Butch there. So, not a great loss for Tech. I think if there's any singular coach that we wouldn't want outside of the head coaches that I would say we have to keep her, I would say let's keep Tasha. But I don't know. Greener pastures.
I do have one that comes to mind first, out of no disrespect to Coach Butts. That would be one Mr. James Ramsey, but perhaps that's also my biases, being a currently having baseball on my other screen type front of the mind type thing. But yeah, I don't think she could go to a more similarly named team to Georgia Tech than Georgetown.
At all of the conventions, she's going to be at the table right next to Georgia Tech. It's going to work out perfectly. She'll be right next to us.
Yeah, it's getting a table next to your former employer, always a good time. But no, congrats to her. She did great work at Tech, including on and off the court. We definitely wish her the best there. Totally a well-earned gig.
My anecdote right now is, this is why I kind of hate that she's gone for us, but just selfishly as a Tech fan, is there was a couple of games where Tony Morgan clearly just was still learning how to figure out how to play in the ACC and get better and clear some mental hurdles that she hadn't cleared before, and Tasha was the one that would talk her down, or not talk her down, but help her just get back in the moment, refocus, and all that. She was the main person on the bench to do that. So it's a very a parental figure, I'd say. Everyone that I've heard that's been around Tasha has absolutely loved her. So I am sure this was the team, the players are going to miss her as well. So any last bits before baseball?
Not too much there. Again, congrats again to Coach Butts.
In the baseball world, they're currently playing Auburn at home at the end of their homestand, so we'll see. Hopefully, that might end while we're recording, so we'll see if we get a result by the end. In grander off-field news, Mark Teixeira's number 23 was announced that it will be retired before the May 20th game against Virginia. If you're wondering why that didn't happen earlier or sooner, it's because one of the requirements to have your jersey retired at Tech is you have to have graduated, which he did last year. So he became eligible then, and so he's getting number retired now, and he has the other performance criteria more than cleared. So he's well earned to get this. I don't know off the top of my head how many numbers we've retired. I know it's at least 4 or 5, right? Somewhere in that range.
What retired numbers?
Yeah, for baseball.
I don't know exactly what they are off the top of the head, and the media guide I currently have open on my yet another screen is only the historical results. So if you give me like 2 seconds, I'll give you the actual number there.
Let me do some results. Just so you all know, we're not going to go over the results that we missed in last week's episode. We're just going to do this past week's per normal. So last Tuesday, Tech beat Georgia Southern 13-7, which would have been a really notable win last year, considering how close we were to them. But Georgia Southern's unranked this year, along with us. So took care of them, and then North Carolina came to town, I would say over the weekend, but it was just Thursday and Friday because the weather just was so disparate looking ahead on Saturday and Sunday. So they played on Thursday night and then a doubleheader on Friday. The first game was an 8-1 loss to the Tar Heels. Dawson Brown allowed the bulk of the runs in that game. And Dalton Smith, though, he had seven strikeouts in 3 innings pitched, which was the most he had thrown in a single game. And then we lost 10-6 in game 2. It was Luke Schmolke's first start in 3 weeks and just didn't go that well there. Josiah Siegel had to pitch his season-long 4 innings to clean up things before I think it wasn't Ben King. Someone cleaned up the last inning. That was the first game of the doubleheader. Second game, we won 8-4. Campbell had 3 hits, 15 total in that game. Much finally got the bats out. These scores, 8-1, 10-6, 8-4. This feels a little too normal for Tech. There's no blowout, and we didn't get blown out.
Yep. Also, before I comment there, just to tie up a loose end, it's actually only 2 retired numbers, and the reason we got our numbers crossed, well, 2, this will be the 3rd.
Yeah.
There are also 4 honored numbers, which seems like just a way to skirt the which Number retirement got significantly harder in April 2010. Jack and I were going over the rules before we got on just to make sure, because I figured I'd bring this up at some point. Essentially, you must have a bachelor's degree from Tech and one of the following: National Player of the Year, National Award, and then first team All-American, and won a national championship and an MVP. So lots of layers there, but that's a pretty onerous gap. My presumption there is these honored numbers don't necessarily meet all of the criteria there. Mark Teixeira is an honored number there, though. So the total,
so he's getting
number,
a promotion.
Yes, he's getting promoted from honored to retired, joining Jim Luck and Jason Varitek. Jim Luck 44, Jason Varitek 33, Mark Teixeira 23. Luck was not retired for his work as a player. Jim Luck was retired for his work as a head coach. I've done some historical work on that in the past, just writing up his story. I recommend going to check that out, because he is somebody who served just about every aspect of Georgia Tech sports as an administrator, as a coach, and dare I say, he's one of, if not the only person to ever perish while on duty as a Georgia Tech person. He was killed in a road accident the night before the UGA football game in 1986. So again, he may not meet those other criteria, but Jim Luck certainly a deserved one. Definitely a story to check out. Not to distract from Mark Teixeira, obviously a great player at Tech, a great philanthropist, and a great businessman. Great player in the MLB too, of course. But
yes,
yeah, totally took a left turn there. Go look up Jim Luck. I didn't do him justice there. Go do that. But
go do that indeed. I got to graduate with Mark Teixeira. He was in my graduation ceremony. I got a picture with him. It was kind of accidentally fun part of my graduation ceremony, is retiring with an MLB dude. I shook his hand, and then I saw how big his hands were, and I was like, I understand why Yankee Stadium was such a favorable short porch for you, because of course you were hitting bombs out of there. That made perfect sense once I shook his hand.
It sounds like that may have been one of the three keys to getting the number retired. So congrats to him.
There we go. Not too much more on the UNC series. I mean, they're 13th ranked. It was going to be a tough one. Getting a win out, I think, was a success. We're currently playing Auburn, as I mentioned. So not counting the Auburn game, which if it's over, cool. If not, too bad.
It's still going, but
still going.
We're
okay.
winning.
We're winning. Okay, good enough.
Famous last words, because we said that the last time we played Auburn and we're recording a podcast.
So. It's not a good trend we have. So we're 19-13 in terms of record as we're recording, 7-8 in ACC play, which puts us 5th in the Coastal. We dropped from 6-7. Or was it? No, 6 and you were 6-6 before this weekend. So we're now at sub 500 after that loss. North Carolina went up to 8-5 in ACC play. Jake, remind me the tournament qualification criteria for ACC baseball.
ACC baseball is finished top 12. There are 14 teams, so basically 2 don't make it. And once we get to ACC play, we'll have 3 pools of 4. There's a whole bunch of weird tiebreakers. We can do a podcast episode on when it comes out. But basically, finish top 12, and then you're in the mix for the ACC.
I think we'll be all right, considering Clemson, Florida State, Pitt, and Virginia Tech all have 5 or fewer wins, and we've got some winnable games ahead of us on the schedule. So I think we should be fine there. 5th in the Coastal, as I said. That's all I have for the Midtown Atlanta portion of it of collegiate. You got anything before we go to the Druid Hills area?
So we do need to talk a little bit about the RPI, just because it's important and we're mid-season. So we want to start looking towards the end of it. Like we said, just got to get top 12 for the ACC. However, for the NCAA, of course, there are 64 slots. 32 of those go automatically to the conference winners. Most conferences these days are playing, tournaments and whatnot. So usually those go to the tournament winners. That being said, Georgia Tech is currently sitting 64th in RPI. You might say there are 64 spots. That's great. Well, because of those, automatic bids, usually that cutoff is closer to, 40, 48, somewhere in there, just because of the nature of having to get making sure that all those other folks can get in those conference winners. That said, Georgia Tech is trending in the right direction after I believe it was the Notre Dame like double header weekend. Georgia Tech was sitting at 94th, 95th. We're down to 64th, so trending in the right direction. Most of Georgia Tech's scheduled good teams, if you will, are still in play. We have the opportunity to play the number 2 in RPI, Virginia, for a 3-game set. We go on the road to Miami. Oh, and to be clear, the RPI does like road wins too, and the selection committee does like road wins. So the opportunity at number 16, Miami, at number 36, Virginia Tech. We have the Auburn game that's currently ongoing, and then 3 at Duke, who are currently 51st. So a lot out there, and then a couple of opportunities, hopefully, against the greater than 100 RPI folks in the midweeks and against Gardner-Webb and Pittsburgh to kind of pad the wins as well. Georgia Tech does need to kind of finish with their head above water and winning record and all that good stuff. They're currently, I believe, at 19-13 off the top of the head.
Yep. So alrighty there. So yeah, winning solves everything. So we're not out of it, but it's probably going to take a tournament victory to somehow get our way in. If I had to guess at this point,
we got plenty of runway left. I mean, you take 2 out of 3 against Virginia, you take 2 out of 3 against Miami, you take 2 out of 3 against Duke or Virginia Tech. You just gotta get some wins under the belt. Win every weekend is what they say on the D1 Baseball podcast. They had Tech in their first 4 out, or at least in consideration for their first 4 out when they were discussing it last week.
All right, there we go. So that was Midtown Atlanta. The Druid Hills area of Atlanta had some ridiculous baseballing happen. For those not familiar with the Atlanta area, Emory University plays in the Druid Hills area, and their baseball team, their D3, plays in the Colonial, I want to say. No, it's not the Colonial.
University Athletic Association.
The UAC, that's it. They had a doubleheader as well, where they scored 62 combined runs, 31 a game. Literally, they got 31 in one game, and then decided, let's do it again. Literally. It set a whole bunch of their conference records. I don't know if it actually set any D3 baseball records I don't know. I didn't look that far into it. I don't know how well they record keep in D3 relative to D1 and all that, just because resources and everything. But I couldn't believe what I saw. It literally was a 62-run game. I feel so bad. That's like that I have played some awful youth baseball games where we got outmatched. It was never this bad where we allowed 31 runs in a game. Like, I have not seen that even in youth baseball. So I can't even do that in MLB The Show. Like, that's like I can't even do it there. Like, I could try. I couldn't do it. And they did in real life. So that was crazy. I don't know anything else to add there.
Not too much to add. Emory, as we are one to admit on this podcast, is pretty darn good at basically every sport at the D3 level.
They are, yes.
If you ever need a pick me up, just go tune in there. They're probably in the process of winning some other conference or national championship, i.e. swimming. It seems like they do that every
very nice
every
pool.
year.
So very, very nice pool that I got to swim a few times.
Same.
If you're in Atlanta and you haven't visited Emory, go visit Emory. It's a very beautiful campus to walk.
I will say I'm going to take a bit of a left turn here. When I was at Tech, Emory kind of felt like it was on the moon, even though it wasn't very far away. And I think that's because it's not real. Like, it's on Clifton and it's on Decatur.
Yep.
But neither of those roads really go all the way to Midtown or like
there's no like
or like the north-south corridor.
Yeah,
like
none of the roads go straight from Tech to Midtown, or to Emory. It's kind of like you got to take Ponce, but you got to divert off Ponce like around the Druid Hills Country Club area.
Like Ponce to Clifton or Ponce to Oakdale, something like that. It'll get you there pretty quick. It's not that far. It's only a little bit past Briarcliff, Moreland. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty about Atlanta, so we'll try and keep that short. But yeah, no, just something I've appreciated since being off campus. Well, one in campus, especially if you don't have a car, you're not really as able to get around Atlanta. Thank you for ripping out the streetcars all those years ago, Atlanta. Good job. But Emory's definitely worth at least checking out. Definitely definitely a different vibe than Georgia Tech, but
yes,
really in a bad way. But
no, not at all. It's its own thing.
You know?
It does a really good job. It's beautiful. They keep building new stuff there. It's really fun. Okay, moving on to tennis. Let's go to the men first. They played host to the Louisville Cardinals and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish this past weekend. Suffered a 4-3 loss on Friday to Louisville in doubles. Martin and Chopra, or Andres Martin and Keshav Chopra, were the only line to win at 6-3, and then Louisville won the second two lines, so we got the doubles point there, which in a sense was the determining factor there because they went 3-3 in singles. Martin won his match and Chopra won his match. McDaniel lost, Shokri lost, Sachdev won, and Bauer lost. It was the fifth match, so that was Shokri's match, when he lost 7-6. He lost 7-6 in the third set at 7-5 tiebreak. So it really came down to the final points of this match to secure the final points. So this happened again. Another just really tight match where the effort's clearly there and they just barely lose out.
I'm probably giving away the lead just a little bit here, but you'll never guess what the score was at Louisville last year too.
Was it 4-3 with a last second loss?
I don't know if it was necessarily a last second loss, but I vividly recall it was a little bit earlier in the season being like, man, this team is just so snake bitten. So last year they lost 4-3 to Auburn early, 5-2 to South Carolina, 4-3 to number 9 Georgia. They lost 4-3 to Notre Dame, and then bam, March 6th, 4-3 loss Louisville. And then they wound up following that up with a 4-3 loss to Virginia. So when I say this team just cannot catch a break sometimes, 2 years in a row against the same team, it's brutal. It's brutal.
That do be brutal. What's coming up next? They're going to be in Virginia next week. Sunday, I skipped Sunday's match. They won 4-0 over Notre Dame, so got that one taken care of. They just decided to not finish the unfinished matches once the fourth point was clinched. It was clinched by Chopra, who won 8-6 in the second set for a 2-0 sweep in his match. Martin won his match, and McDaniel won that match. So just the top three lines got their wins in singles after Tech won all the doubles lines, or won two doubles lines. It was, I believe, on serve in the third. So all good there. They're going to go to Blacksburg and Charlottesville this coming weekend to play VTech and UVA. And I think I don't got anything else there. Is there?
I was going to say UVA is scary. So
okay. Thank you. That's the context I needed.
Yes, get the Virginia Tech win. Virginia Tech, not a bad team either, but it's probably okay to say that it's the more accessible of the two of them. But they would be well served to notch a win. It's their last two regular season matches before the ACC championships in Cary, North Carolina.
Yes. Yes.
Tech is currently 12-12, perfect 12-12.
Another mediocre team, or by record, I guess. It's
I mean, it's the nature of playing, the ACC, which is, a phenomenal league in tennis, and then they're out of conference. Yes, they did, make sure they got some Presbyterian and some Wofford and some Alabama State and some Furman, but Auburn, South Carolina, Georgia, boom, boom, boom. Those are just as good as any of those ACC teams that they're going to face. And before we wrap this up, I do want to verbally stall for about 10 more seconds while I pull up the ITA rankings, just because those are important here as we look to wrap up the season strong. I think Tech might be playing on the outside, looking in, if you will. They're currently sitting at 65 with a 7.653 power rating from the ITA. They're behind Clemson, who they handled pretty solidly. They're behind Notre Dame, who's 13-12, and they throttled this weekend. It's just, man, they played some really tough teams. They're behind Miami, who's at 47, and Tech played them relatively well. I'd say it's tough, man.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville is 32. Like, all those would be great, great wins to have back. A&M, who they played really early in the year in the ITAs. It's just tough. They played some phenomenal competition.
Far away, so close, as Mr. Bono says in one of his songs. So, let's move to the women's side. They're the 22nd rank, Georgia Tech women's tennis, I should say. They only had one match this past weekend against Clemson. It was a 5-2 win. The doubles line was a Clemson sweep, but in singles, Carol Lee, Kylie Bilchev, Mahak Zhang, Alexandra Cruz, and Rosie Garcia Gross all got wins. So lines 1 through 5 all got wins. Lee went to a third set tiebreak, won that 8-6, so a real close one there. Bilchev won in 2 sets pretty easily. Jane won in 2 sets pretty easily. Cruz had to go to 3 sets, but won sets 2 and 3, 6-1, 6-1. And Garcia Gross also won in 3 sets. So good win there. Clemson, I think the website said they're like 39th ranked or something like that. So not a bad loss, not a bad win at all. Like for keeping up momentum going into ACCs and all the rest. I kind of wish the doubles came out better, and they did lose 7-5 and 7-6 in 2 of those lines, so they were close. But I'm glad they got this. Getting some good singles done was good. Clemson only had 1 ranked singles player, and we had 4. So that feels notable as well.
Yeah. Yep. Clemson is after today's, I think it was today, maybe it was yesterday's update to the rankings. They're at like 37. So yeah, that top 40 window. Interestingly, they've played a lot more matches than Tech. They're 15-9. Tech's at 12-7, I believe. So odd. I don't pretend to understand exactly the ins and outs of non-con tennis scheduling, because it does seem like some teams do play a decent amount more matches than others. But like we said, Georgia Tech currently sitting at 12-7 with quite a few ranked players, and definitely have positioned themselves nicely. I think the main thing to think about with them is they're sitting at 20th. Where you want to knock yourself into is the top 16. Jack, do you have a guess as to why that might be the case?
You get to host some matches.
Yep. They're on the outside looking in for that right now, I would assume. But that being said, it is the ACC. They are definitely going to be getting some opportunities to play some, good teams that are left. There's Florida State for sure, who is up next, but then they've also got Miami before, of course, going to the tennis championship and also in Kyrie. And yeah, who knows who you'll run into there, but between the rest of the conference, there's quite a few opportunities to get some quality wins in terms of the folks in front of them right now. There's Miami, who they're also playing very, very soon. Virginia, NC State, Duke, and UNC above them. So I guess that makes Tech, 6th or 7th best team in the conference, and they're in the top 20.
That's insane.
Which is crazy.
The consolidation of tennis power. Some recruiting news actually on the tennis front. Scarlett Nicholson announced her verbal to come play tennis for the Georgia Tech women this coming year. She is one of the top 20th ranked Canadian junior players, and currently is in the top 200 in the ITF junior rankings. She's been as high as 173, which is this year. Has a 5-6 record against blue chip players, which I just discovered was a rank above 5-star in all the junior ranking stuff. So not bad, not that bad at all. So we'll take that. And then on the men's side, I just decided to pop into the men's side and see, did we get anybody? We did. We got like one of the top. We got like one of the top 5-star guys. Krish Aurora out of Newport Beach. He's he's right on the borderline of blue chip and 5-star. So there's some firepower coming from California to the flats apparently on the men's team. So that's gonna be fun. I don't know anybody else coming as of now, but it's just the ones that came up in my feed this week.
I think Andres was out of California, and maybe Marcus, but I can't remember. Can't remember exactly there. And I remember being so excited. I can't remember if it was now. It's probably before then. This was a long time ago, but friend of from the Rumble Seats writer himself, Ethan Kreger. I remember mentioning to him. I'm like, oh, maybe it was a women's recruit. I don't know. I was like, Ethan, we got a 5-star. That's awesome. And he's like, no. In tennis, you got to be getting the blue chips.
Get the blues.
I'm like, this is so dumb. But, more power to him. Borderline blue chip is a good one. And, Scarlett Nicholson definitely seems like a good pickup as well. So
we will take it all the same. I'm going to watch this Hawks game for like 2 minutes, and I'll let you talk about Section 103.
Oh, yeah, right as my computer decides to just start dinging. But you know what? That is okay. We will overcome. In the meantime, Section 103 is what we are talking about today. I know that we've gone on about the Juniors Grill shirt, so I will give you all a break on that. But the good news is that Section 103 is shipping again. And that means not just their great shirts. Juniors Grill shirt looks awesome, by the way, and a great way to support a new tech tradition, if you will, but also stickers and buttons and pins and all that good stuff that they've got there as well. Like we said, we do love their shirts. They're very soft. There's one under this sweater that I'm wearing right now. And we also really love the opportunity to get stickers, pins, and other fun stuff from them. So go check them out. Free shipping on orders over $70 every day. It's I don't know if you have enough time to stock up before the spring game, but definitely make sure that when you're out at Bobby Dodd in the fall, that you are rocking your Section 103, whether or not you actually have tickets in the real Section 103. It's all the same to us. Jack, back to you.
You mentioned the spring game. I completely forgot to put that in the outline. There's football at Georgia Tech this weekend on Saturday at 1 o'clock. The spring game will kick off. I believe RecFest is at 11 a.m. if you want to be on campus for all the stuff. A weekend. We mentioned this some weeks ago when it got announced, but hey, a weekend football game is going to be fun. I will note at the same time there's also volleyball happening. I'm gonna hold off a second before we get there. But yeah, so this will be the first Gold and White game under Brent Key. I do not know if a format has been announced, if it's going to be classic offense defense or some Hugh Freeze chicanery where the defense is winning 24-0 before the game starts, and then they figure it out from there, and the winner, eats steak. That game ended in a tie in Auburn, by the way, so I don't think anybody... I don't know what you eat in that case, like Chick-fil-A, Cane's. I don't know what you do if you tie at a spring game with steaks involved for what meal you eat. So we'll see. We'll get to see some...
Just give all the steaks to me.
Oh,
that sounds like a good idea.
That's a good call. So we'll see how that goes. At least I'll be there in the crowd. Jake, I assume you'll be. It's somewhere in there.
I'll be there. I think it'll be a good morning to start out with, some sort of Atlanta recreation and or food, be that biking, tennis, golfing, walking, running, biscuits. I don't know. I'll do something interesting in Atlanta in the morning, but definitely by 1 o'clock, you'll see yours truly in the stands as well. I think for those of you that have not been to a baseball game, and perhaps that may not live in spitting distance of New Realm, that it might be your first time to check out Ale of an Engineer, which was a phenomenal pairing for my baseball watching the other day. So that's something interesting to check out. I also saw that subscribers to the Tech Way are getting invited to the Letterman Lounge. So perhaps that's an incentive there as well. So
if you don't know what the Tech Way is, that's basically the NIL portal for fans to sponsor athletes directly, and there are some perks that come with it at varying degrees and levels and whatnot. So this looks like to be one of the first ways to take advantage of that if you are so inclined. I know there are plenty of athletes beyond the football realm that also could use some help if you feel so inclined. So beyond that, it should be fun. The weather looks nice, so I think it'll be nice outside. Shouldn't be too hot. And I think it'll be a good time out there. So I'm going to shift to volleyball here, which I do want to mention this, even though this was 2 weeks ago. They're doing some spring scrimmages. There was a bunch of schools that came, no results or anything like that. Maddie Oliver, formerly Maddie McKissick, she got married to Tobias Oliver recently, was there with the recently ex players, with Aaron my mouth is no longer saying words. Aaron Moss and Breland Morissette. Julia Bergmann actually dressed for that game, and she got a couple points in. She convinced Collier to let her play, and I believe a little birdie told me she's going to try and do the same this weekend. Middle Tennessee State and Georgia are going to be here the same time as the spring game. Middle Tennessee State is like the morning. They're doing it before and after. It's before and after. Middle Tennessee State starts at 11:30 a.m. and then Georgia starts at 4 p.m. So you can theoretically go from O'Keefe to Bobby Dodd back to O'Keefe. I would go to the Georgia one. I think that's going to be the main game there. So I will certainly be going to this game because if it is the last time we see Bergmann play, it'll be worth it for me. So,
yeah, that pretty much covers it. It was very interesting how many teams were in town for volleyball. I believe that also lined up with a pretty major youth club volleyball tournament locally. So very much Atlanta was volleyball capital of the world, I guess. couple weeks ago. But yeah, I don't know. It's wild to think that the Bergmann era is over. I remember being at game number one, or
Oh
I guess
man.
home game number one. I can't
Yeah.
remember if that was the season opener or not. But time flies, and I think kind of something Akshay and I have really reminisced on over the years, or just kind of sat with, is like you only get 4 years. So if you're looking over to, maybe kind of tipping our hand for what's coming next softball, like there's only 4 years of Emma
Yeah.
Kauf on the flats. You
Four
got
slash five if
probably
you
even
want.
less if some of these baseball boys keep hitting well. They
I
don't
know.
they
I
don't
know.
always stay for even a full four. So
No, they don't.
just appreciate them while they're here, and that's good on Julia for going out and you know making it making it to the big time, because she's certainly going to have that opportunity. So.
She is, yes, she has plenty of opportunities. She being world renowned volleyball player. We literally have the most famous person on Tech's campus outside of maybe Angel Cabrera is Julia Bergmann in terms of popularity in the sports world. So, it's
Probably even more well known than Angel too, I would say.
maybe yeah. Different parts of the world. Different parts of the world. They inhabit.
Yeah, true.
Their bases are different. They have different continents as their home bases there. So, but anyway, if you want to go see volleyball, it'll be free. Good time at O'Keefe. It was packed last time, so I don't know if the spring game will impact it or not, but it might be packed again. So I just be ready to hustle on over if you want to go. Yeah. So let's shift to softball, which is right next door to O'Keefe. Notably, they're finally done with this just absolutely brutal stretch of games, which was Virginia Tech, Clemson, and Florida State, where they only played top 15 teams. They lost all of those games. They were in it in a couple of them, but they still just couldn't pull off one of the big upsets there. So, I mean, Jake had mentioned this. The schedule has a standardized rotation, and you just it's kind of a luck of the draw thing of who you play. Unlike volleyball, where you play everyone and then a specific few teams twice. You just play who you get in softball. So just the worst draw this year by far, and that's not really anyone's fault there. So
we played all three of those teams last year too. So I guess next year will be great.
Next year's gonna be great. We're gonna win a lot of games next year. It's gonna be awesome.
Knock on some wood, Jack. Be careful.
I know. So we had Boston College came to town this past weekend. They were the closest team to Tech in the standings in terms of ACC play, and also like right hovering around 500 as well overall. Got the series win 2-1, 5-1 win in game one, 4-3 loss in game two, which they had to lead. Boston College had a late inning comeback off. I think it was a double off the wall that just barely got them the win. And then Mercy ruled them 10-2 in the final game, which was a good Blake Nelman start, and Sarah Beth Allen had a bomb. So, anything? Let me note some stats before you riff off on the deeper nitty gritty. They're currently at a +7 run differential. They were at -1 going into the third game of this series. They're now above 500 at 2019. Before were 18. They were 18-18 beforehand, and they're 4-11 in conference play, which has them outside looking in on the tournament. So anything, and they were playing Jacksonville State during when we started recording. I think they won that game, so they might be 21-19 now. So two games over 500.
Little too close for comfort for yours truly there. 9-6 was the final.
Oh, it was 9-4 earlier. That's not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Tech got out to a 3-0 lead. Basically, various back and forth happened. It was 9-4 after the top of the sixth. Tech did hang a 5 spot on them, which proved to be the difference in the game. Or I guess, because they won by 3. Jacksonville State came back in the bottom of the sixth to tack on 2. Those 6 Jacksonville State runs were spread across 4 different frames, and 3 runs while Chandler Dennis, who got the start, were in the circle, and Blake Nelman, who got the win, but gave up 3 runs on 4 hits, 3 walks. So definitely a game that was a by committee, not really kind of honed in on any one thing, just a lot of traffic on the base pads, if you will. Jacksonville State is, I believe, top 100 RPI. I think they were 85 when I checked earlier when we were talking about it. So not a terrible team, and it was at their place. So those standard caveats do apply there.
Gotcha. Any other is USI or any of your other rankings updated for us, or should we move on?
Softball is currently waiting on some script updates I'm trying to push, and that's kind of what baseball has been on the shelf as well. I don't know if I've mentioned here before, but I'm trying to digitize all of the media guides for baseball, softball, football, basketball, tennis, anything where you can match up against someone. Just getting a full list there, and that's kind of taken most of my time. So, just having to prioritize is a little bit annoying down the spring stretch, but it'll all be worth it in the end. And of course, I'll probably have all this wrapped like the day after the season ends, but we might do some quick patches for next week to get back up there. But RPI has Tech, or sorry, not RPI, adjusted RPI, if you will, has Georgia Tech sitting right at number 49, still with a very strong strength of schedule. Louisville is currently at 50, right behind them. Other folks in the neighborhood of interest. Let's see if anything pops out. Notre Dame, they're currently at 53. Looking a little bit further up the list, kind of a shelf between Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Louisville, and your top tier, if you will. That's your classic Virginia Tech, Clemson, Duke, Florida State. So certainly at least how the numbers belie it, how the NCAA calculates as like a top 4 and then like a next 3-ish, and then kind of everyone else after that. So gotcha. Much better than the 4-11 conference record, I think, is the main takeaway.
Yeah. Let's note that 9 of those losses are to like top teams, and I mentioned this in my piece I wrote a few weeks ago. Like the schedule just killed them, and so and they've won all the other games they're supposed to win, and they beat Auburn at home as well, or a lot of the games they're supposed to win, and they beat Auburn at home. So they are not a bad team. They are kind of just playing as their schedule dictates. I'm hoping to get some time with Coach Morales soon to kind of see what she thinks about this before the season ends, because I'm really curious to see how she feels about this. If they feel like they kind of got schedule screwed. I mean, any coach will say you got to beat who you play. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You got to beat whoever you can. So, but I still would wonder how much. Just where her head's at there. So okay,
I am gonna put one more thing out there. Yep. They've got a couple of conference series left, right? That's North Carolina, that's Pittsburgh, that's Duke. You got to get that top 10 spot. So you're playing at least some postseason ball. But we do go on the road to Duke.
That's really hard. That's just the killer part there. That's
oh yeah. The 21st, 22nd, 23rd. So not this weekend, but next. I mean, that means you're getting the top 4 teams by RPI in the conference in a single year. Obviously, that happens to some people, but in terms of balanced schedule, this is not that. And there's some coaches, some situations that bring it on. Like, I mean, I think in our interview with Coach Collier in the fall, she was like, "We got the hard schedule," and it seemed like it was something she had like requested or like
basically
asked for.
Even women's basketball was like, we want the hard teams, we want to make sure we're ready to go, and
I'm sure Eileen Morales and the staff here do too, but it just gives you a lot of opportunity to play really good teams, and with how the stuff is stratified, more power to them. Keep your head down. It means that Duke is another 3 opportunities to get some great wins. And then North Carolina, Pittsburgh, they've got a game left against Georgia State, another one against that was just rescheduled actually against Alabama State. Good to get that one rescheduled and on the calendar. But there's some opportunities to get wins, and I think Tech's clearly got the strength of schedule. It's just going to be a matter of when it beating Alabama State and Georgia State, a matter of 2-1 or better against both of Pitt and North Carolina, and then you've given yourself some leeway to at least be above 500 when the season ends, which is they got to do that. It's just how it happens. Like that's one of the things about making the tournament period without the auto bid. So
I'm praying for we win all the games, and when we get to Durham, North Carolina, we win the first game, and the second 2 are rained out.
We swept them in a 1-game series. That's the goal, right?
A lot of blue on this. A lot of blue teams on the schedule here. It's gonna be wearing the gold and white uniforms quite a bit here, I'm gonna guess. So there's uniform corner. Track and field. What do we have here?
I'm just gonna vamp a little bit on this. It looks like it was mainly distance runners that went up to the Flames invite at Lee University in Tennessee. A place that Jack and I just learned existed. So that was cool. Flames invite, mostly D2, D3, NAIA, other type schools. I know Belmont, Chattanooga, Huntsville were there. Emory, the aforementioned Emory, they were there as well. At least some athletes. But yeah, no, it looks like it was mostly distance runners. The main, I guess, finishes that I saw were in the 5,000 and the 10,000. The 5,000 Tech did go 1, 3, 4, 5. So that's great. Helena Lindsay, Mary Brady, Liz Galarza, and Katie Earwood all in the mix there. Wow, Liz Galarza. I haven't heard that name in a long time. Cross country. Woo. And then James Cragen and John Higginbotham, 3rd and 6th on the men's side. Again, it's basically your cross country names all coming back to roost. In terms of the rest of the team, they were in Athens at the Spec Towns invite. Tech did get a couple of top 3 finishes. Jamison Miller did finish 3rd in the 400. Kayla Rose 2nd in the 800. Allie Walker 3rd in the 800. So great stuff there. And then Chris Charano took home 2nd in the 800 as well. Shanti Papacosta and Omar Aranat did place 2nd in the high jump. So I guess the way that the site classifies those events is that it was 3 events, men's or women's, or men's or women's. So I would classify it as top 3 finishes in 5 events. Yeah. So, goose those numbers, but really great to see top finishes. I mean, Spec Towns had a number of really quality teams there between Georgia, Georgia Tech, Virginia. I believe Southern was there. I think I saw Tennessee State. Yeah, Georgia State. So, the kind of a selection of local teams you'd expect to see, plus Virginia Tech, a couple other Clemson, the usual suspects, I guess you could say, type lineup. Yeah.
Good stuff there. The most important student at Georgia Tech of the last 50 years, he just turned 50. His name is Buzz. He is the most recent national championship winner now on the flats. There is indeed a national cheerleading competition, which came about. I think it actually formally came about in COVID or something like that. And Tech's done at least. Gold Rush has won a national title as well. And now Buzz has a national title. He won whatever the mascot competition was. He won it. So Buzz got a ring. Y'all. I hope he does actually get a real ring. That'd be cool for him to have. He's been sporting a chain in a lot of games.
Sized,
Of course. Well, I mean, he does wear football gloves. I interacted with him at a softball game recently, and he was wearing football gloves, like the tacky football gloves, not his usual silk white gloves. And he's able to. I don't know why he wore the football gloves. He just was. So there's now he's wearing the Adidas gloves. He's wearing the Adidas shoes now. So tradition just going out the window year by year here. But anyway, so yeah, congrats to Buzz, the best mascot of all time, that now is a national championship winning mascot. So good stuff there. Golf. Did we golf this past weekend? Have we golfed?
Yeah, we didn't do a new tournament, if you will. I just did want to shout out the Godwin because we didn't really get to talk about that, and because I like talking about the Godwin because they actually play match play golf, and golf's weird.
Right.
You got stroke play, you got match play. It's all a massive jumble all over the place. But Tech was the runner-up at the Godwin. They were paired up with number 13 Oklahoma, so some pretty good competition there. Obviously, they're also good. But Tech has been runner-up. I think it was 4 times before this weekend, and it's now 5. So they're really good at finishing second. If they did that at NCAA's, I think I'd take it. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just an interesting event. They do a match play, and I think that's kind of what makes the ACC championship final, or the final 2 days of that, so riveted. It's not always on TV, but dang straight,
it's fun when
if I am not just sitting on my phone for 2 straight days going refresh. I think it keeps me on the edge of my seat better than stroke play, but maybe.
The Ryder Cup is the best of the best sporting events out there, and it is match play golf. So there you go. The last little bits here, men's basketball, there's been some transfer portal action. You can check out the website for that at the moment. I don't really have much to say there. I forgot to write about Survivor this past week. I didn't forget. I was on vacation. I intentionally did not write about Carson Garrett this past week because I wanted to enjoy the beach for the first time in 4 years, so that's what I did. And
My mom
then,
commented on that. She was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are covering Survivor now."
oh,
I'm like, Jack is covering
yes, it's just me.
Survivor.
It's just me. It's just me. I appreciate people that are reading
Uh,
that. Like, it's totally just a hobby for myself, so I can enjoy the show more. But for anyone that reads it, I do appreciate your eyeballs in this particular situation. Club sports. Well, yeah, where's men's lacrosse at?
yeah, so men's lacrosse is going to the SELC tournament. I want to get their opponent right, so just give me one sec to pull that back up because I'm silly and
I'm gonna plug my
I
phone in while
closed
you
it
find
out.
that.
But essentially, the SELC is kind of like the best of the best, if you will, in collegiate club lacrosse. I'm a little bit biased, but in terms of who Tech gets, they're matched up with Florida State. That'll be at LaGrange, Georgia for the quarterfinal. I'm not sure exactly what comes past that because all they have on their website is the quarterfinal. But you do have to win it first in order to, keep going. And Florida State is a really solid team. Their team that's kind of rocketed their way up the MCLA ladder during the year. I think at one point I may have commented on this on the oops, I went to the wrong website because I want to get their ranking correct. But MCLA.com does not take you to the lacrosse's website. So if you want to look for it, it's MCLA.us. But in terms of Florida State, I am vamping here just a minute while I pull up the poll. At some point, they had climbed like 18 spots in one fell swoop, or just something nuts like that. For the record, Georgia Tech currently sitting at number 9. Florida State is currently sitting at 14. They're 10-4 after a loss at Florida. So Georgia Tech 11-3, sitting at number 9, like we said. So should be making for great competition.
Yeah.
Like I said, the SELC really a phenomenal league. So it'll be a gauntlet the rest of the way in terms of the teams. One thing to note, Georgia Tech's most recent win was against Utah Valley, who's currently sitting, I believe, at number 4 in the country. So definitely something to add a notch to the belt. Tech, I would expect to be certainly in the mix for the MCLA tournament, but it would also be great to win the SELC. Again, our division is the school in Athens, ourselves, South Carolina, all three really phenomenal teams.
Yeah.
You've got Alabama, Vandy, you've got Florida, Auburn, Florida State, South Florida, and UCF in the Division 1. So there's only 5 teams. So quarterfinals, I guess you really would only potentially not see, I guess, USF and UCF, but it's gonna, whoever we get in the semis and championship, if we beat Florida State, it's gonna be a really tough matchup. Like I said, Florida State 10-4, really quality year that they've put together there.
They played a lot of really good teams this year. So even though they're the ninth ranked, that doesn't disturb me in any way. They were challenging for the top rank, but they're good enough to beat the top anyone any day. So hopefully,
well, I mean,
good vibes there.
I was gonna say, if you think about it too, the like the quality of play just within the conference is super high, and it's like tennis, right? You're locked into having those teams on the schedule. So
yeah. That is all of the active sports news we have. We have. Whew, boy, it's getting late for us here. Baseball trivia. Let's knock out baseball trivia because you said it was a good one, and I do want to hear this.
It's a very simple question, Jack.
Oh boy. Okay.
What percentage of all time Georgia Tech baseball games have been coached by Danny Hall?
Okay. It's a lot of them. He's been here 27 years?
I think it's a little bit more than that.
A little bit more than that?
92, okay. 93? I don't know. You're close. Whatever it is, you're close.
Okay, and we're playing what? I mean, we're playing 50-plus games a year. So, oh boy, that's a lot of. He's already won a couple thousand games. He's probably lost about 1,500 games as well. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna.
You're a little high on both of those, but
okay.
Again, keep in mind we've been playing baseball since 1895, with the exception of a couple of like war and Great Depression years.
Yes. Okay. So 20 years. So like almost 30 years out of over 100. So I'm gonna also assume there's some schedules are longer than they were pre 1950. I don't know, 1960. So I'm gonna go with about 40%.
Wow. You are much better at guessing this than everyone else I've asked this question to. Georgia Tech has won 2,577 games, has lost 1,650, and tied 27 games. Yes, we're all good on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's your total
number. So I guess the total. I guess Danny Hall's wins were all of the totals.
Yes. Yes. So that equates, I
believe, to
4,254 all-time games.
Okay.
Danny Hall has coached 41% of those 4,254 games.
Wow.
Yeah. The other, I've asked this question about probably 8 or 10 times at this point. I've gotten 16, 18, 15. They're all in like that teens and 20s range. So you get a gold star. Did much better at this question than I was expecting. And for those counting at home, yes, Danny Hall, 41% of all-time Georgia Tech baseball games. I will say, joining the ACC late 70s and then into the early 80s is really when the schedule kind of ballooned there. For a long time, Tech was only playing really, I guess, in a little bit of March, most of April, and a little bit of May. So it's certainly
pretty much every sport universally, like just the schedule's exploded in terms of sheer numbers of games in the last 50 years or so. So it makes, if anyone's been, like Coach K, I'm sure at Duke has coached like at least like 65% of the games there, just because of how many more games basketball has now and all that kind of stuff. So maybe not 65, but that general concept holds, I think. So okay, that was
I will say one more thing, and you got to think about it like this. Even 20 years ago, a lot of schools were only playing 11 football games in a year too.
That's true. That's true.
Think of not playing 12. What? That's nuts.
That's
only 20 years ago.
Who plays an odd number of games in a sport? Couldn't be us. Anyways, I think that's all we got here. Hopefully we'll have Akshay with us next week after he gets settled in at Atlanta United. Hopefully Atlanta United will win this weekend too out in Toronto. And we'll see what the Hawks do. They're currently playing the Heat and winning in their play-in game, so that'd be cool if we get to wake up tomorrow to a win. Beyond that, I think that's all we got. Feel free to take us home, Mr. Grant.
Yeah, of course. As I plugged earlier, from the rumble seat at gmail.com is the best place to send us your thoughts, feedback, suggestions for the summer. I'm leading with that today because I really want to make sure we're engaging you guys. We'll be doing some finance episodes. We'll be doing some history. You know me, love me some history. We'll be doing some previews, some recaps, some state of athletics, all that good stuff. But we want to make sure we're talking about what our audience wants to hear. So come find us. You can also find us from the rumbleseat.com. We put up articles with these. We put up all sorts of articles. Jack writes about Survivor, the internet's #1 Survivor journalist. I have declared the bastion of Survivor content. But you can also find us on Twitter at FTRS blog. You can find me at JakeGrant98, Jack at Jack Nicklaus. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at From the Rumble Seat on both of those platforms. And as always, you can support our wonderful partners at Section 103 at section103.com and at Section 103 on Twitter. Until next week, this has been the 163rd episode for the second time of Scions of the Southland. Good night, good luck, and go Jackets.